what did a pregnant woman, let's just say, do in regards to that you had to rip out the baby from
Right.
her and throw it over a cliff and stuff? Like these are again stories that we hear quite a bit.
Well, and it's stories that we hear from them, not just look. So I've been in the Armenian community enough that all I have to do is I sit down with an Armenian for in the first 5 minutes. I'm like, tell me, do you have any roots in Western Armenia? Where did your Papiks and your Tatiks, where did they come from? Okay, then everybody has a genocide story. I mean, they're all
Mm.
tragedies, and then there's at least somebody that was saved, and that's how they were able to continue to today. But now ask the same question to a Turk or Kurd. Now, if they're a Turk in Istanbul, if they're a Turk in Ankara or Izmir, they're city Turks. I
Yeah.
mean, they don't. It's they're going to the bar, they're going to the cafe, they're having a good time, whatever. You go to the villages where these people haven't left.
So especially the
For,
villages, because Armenians
yeah,
were like predominantly populated, right,
yes,
in the east.
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go to those people, and boy, they got stories. I mean, they're like, yeah, we took our guns, we took our bayonets, and we put their babies on top of our bayonets until their blood ran into the rivers. And these are people that are recounting stories they heard from their grandfathers. I mean, and they're not hiding it. And there's graves that are uncovered that are Armenian graves, and I was like, yep, that's what it was. Uh, I remember one time I was in Syria and close to Derzor, but not in that far into that region. I was just across the Turkish and Syrian border in a town called Amude. It's the province of Al Jazeera in Syria, and I was hanging out with some of my Kurdish friends. I was doing evangelism there, and there was this huge mound, this massive mound. Okay,
Mm.
and but before I saw the mound, I was in my friend's room, and his friend, and he had a human skull on his shelf. Like I'm looking at your shelf, I see the head of a philosopher, probably. I can't really
Correct. Yeah,
tell.
it's Socrates and Homer.
Okay, okay, there we go. So on his shelf, there was a human skull. I looked at it, I was like, dude, I'm not gonna say his name. I was like, dude, what is that? He's like, oh, that's an Armenian skull. I'm like, you mean like a real, like a human? Like what? And he's like, yeah, I'll take you to the graveyard tomorrow. Like it was a mass grave. So he took me there, and it was just like it's still there today. Okay, so anybody can still go, and it's like a crime scene. So it's just this mound of bones just sticking out. So they murdered them and just piled them. He said, yeah, we all know this. This is what happened here.
Wow.
I got story after story. So I mean, like from the ground, on the ground, everybody knows it happened. Now, if you're in the academic world in Turkey and you've been fed all this propaganda, and you're from basically elementary school on till whatever, and you're hanging out in your University of Ankara, you've got your degrees and this and that. You have no idea. You haven't spent uh, hours and hours and years going from village to village getting stories, finding out that, because if you did that, then you uncovered it, then you're going to be probably not only defrocked from your academic position, then you're going to probably be tried for insulting Turkishness if you uncovered it. So anyway, there's some issues there.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are those. There's Turkish journalists who are Muslims. There's Turkish.
Taner Akçam is one of the guys that really, and he can't return to Turkey because of his academic work.
Yeah. And there's been people who kind of sit there and say, hey, like, stop this. Let's own up to it. Let's try to see how we can get past this, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But it's always shut down.